Well, we should probably start this out with a little bit of geometry. This problem deals with the area of a triangle. The area of a triangle is going to be the base times the height divided by 2. Now in this problem, they're giving us the area, they're giving us the length of the base, and then they're asking us for the height. So one way to tackle this, since we have to figure out what the height is, so we have to figure out what h is to take this formula and isolate the h. To do that, you need to get rid of the 2 on the bottom first, so you can multiply both sides by 2. So that'll give you 2 area equals base times height. And then to completely isolate the height, you need to make the b go away, so you can divide by b. So you get 2a over b equals h. And that's what we want for this problem, is the h. So let's plug in what they give us for area and what they give us for base, and then see what we can come up with for the height. So the area is this, holy cow, 5-term polynomial. We need to double all the terms. Now we're not going to mess with the x's in these. We're not multiplying by x. We're just multiplying by a constant 2. So the first term, 15x to the 4th, is going to become 30x to the 4th. Again, we're not going to change the power of x because we're not multiplying by an x. We're multiplying by 2. So we're multiplying by a constant. The only thing that changes is the constant out front of each term. And this 2 distributes in. It'll distribute into this term, this term, this term, this term, and this term. So 2a is going to be 30x to the 4th. What? Whoa, okay. Plus 6x cubed plus 8x squared minus 2x and minus 6. That's what we have to then divide by the base. Well, they tell us the base is 6x squared minus 2. That's going to give us our height. That's what we're trying to figure out. So we need to do a long division problem. Because we're dividing by 2 terms, we can't just break that into fractions and try to simplify each one because we're dividing by more than 1 term. But we can do a long division problem. All right, so let's work out the math on this thing. I'm going to set up a division problem here. The denominator is what goes on the outside, and the numerator goes inside the division bar. And to get the ball rolling, you look at the first term on the outside and ask yourself, what would I need to multiply that by to make the first term on the inside? Well, to get from 6 to 30, you'd have to multiply by 5. To get from x squared to x to the 4th, you need an x squared with it. So 5x squared, which I like to line up with the x squared underneath, would be our first term in the answer. Then you always distribute that by both terms in what you're dividing by. So 5x squared first times 6x squared gives you 30x to the 4th, which lines up under the x to the 4th term. And 5x squared times negative 2 gives you negative 10x squared, which will line up in the x squared column. With any long division problem, you subtract down the columns. Well, subtracting is just adding the opposite. So really that's going to be a negative, that'll become a positive. And now I can just add down the columns because I've switched the signs. So these zero out, as they always should. 6x cubed stays 6x cubed. 8x squared plus 10x squared is 18x squared. And then I'll just bring down the rest. And you start the process over. So back to the first term up here, what would I have to multiply 6x squared by to give me the first term here, 6x cubed? Well, the answer should be a positive x. So I'll put a plus x in for the next term in my answer. And whatever you put up above, you immediately distribute by the thing you're dividing by. So this times that gives you 6x cubed. And x times negative 2 gives you negative 2x. Again, we want to add the opposite. That's just subtracting. So I'm going to switch all the signs. And now I can add down the columns. So the 6x cubes cancel out. We get an 18x squared. These cancel out. We get a minus 6. So finally we say, all right, now what does 6x squared need to be multiplied by to make 18x squared? The answer is a plus 3. And if you distribute that 3 back through, you get an 18x squared, and you get 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. These are going to cancel out when you add down the columns to give you 0 for your remainder. So your answer then, for the height of this triangle, would be 5x squared plus x plus 3.